Hi, we are live with you from the LinkedIn Hub at Advertising Week, and I have with me Nada Stirratt, who is the CEO of Verve Mobile. So Nada, we were talking a little bit about this, and I think it's really interesting because over the past few days I've spoken to several different people who talked about geotargeting as a new frontier, or as something that makes so much sense, especially in the retail space. And then I meet you, and this is what you guys do. So this is an opportunity to really talk more about this new trend or this new direction that I think is making a big difference. I can see how people can have reservations, but at the same time, it's still really cool in order to give people brands. So.
Well, it's cool because it's very specific, but it's actually not so new if you think about, especially here at Times Square, everywhere you walk there's a billboard because there's a lot of people here and you want to be able to reach somebody before they're walking into a store, which is the ultimate in geotargeting, right? And so what's happened over the last couple of years is people have gotten really good at using various forms of data to think that they know a person. And they can reach that person when they're in the privacy of their own home on a web and get them to shop at a e-commerce site. At the end of the day, 93% of all shopping is still being done outside in a store. So people are talking a lot more about geolocation or geotargeting because they're recognizing that it ain't all an online world.
Which was crazy.
You're going to go into a store.
Yeah, when you told me that statistic, because you talk to somebody and they're like, oh my God, you actually went into the store? I buy everything online. Everybody's got Amazon Prime. So to hear that, no, wait a minute, people really do go into stores, but how do we reach them on their mobile devices is pretty fascinating.
And, so it's like not only are people shopping in stores, but they're also holding a device. And so therefore, because of all the information that you can get from that device, again, in a very secure and privacy compliant way, knowing where you are going is a greater indicator of what you're going to do than what you perhaps are reporting that you're doing online. So if I'm about to walk into a Sephora, chances are I'm going to go shop for a beauty product in Sephora. That's important information as opposed to having just seen a Sephora ad perhaps on a web. So tying that all together, being able to locate where you are and serve you with the right message is pretty compelling for marketers to reach you at that last moment before you're doing 93% of your buying.
So I think also, it must be, this seems like you were saying, it's the last kind of step right there before you enter, but that it's not the only step. You guys must include a lot of, not just demographic, but psychographic. So I know a lot about who you are, and now I know where you're going. Not just I have no idea who you are, but you're just near Sephora.
That's exactly right. And so, by the way, sometimes people just want to reach somebody who happens to be in front of a store. So obviously during the holidays, you want somebody who's an active shopper, and you might I want to reach somebody who's at Sephora, and I might be another makeup store or whatever, so I can try to reach people just who are in that area. While retail is our number one category, automotive is a really big category for us too, and people love to be able to know if you are at the Toyota lot, and maybe I'm Honda, that could be some information for conquesting or targeting too. So
is that appropriate?
That's they do it every day in the grocery store, right? You stand next to the yogurt here, and there's a special coupon for the yogurt over there. Or when you check out and you bought Pledge, you're going to get a coupon for another brand another time. So it's called conquesting, and people do that all the time.
Yeah, I guess you're right. So the other thing I think naturally people think of is, and I was speaking to a marketer a little bit earlier who said, I'm a little bit of an older generation. Maybe if I were a millennial, I'd be okay. I share everything anyway. I'd be okay with everybody knowing exactly where I am and exactly what store I'm about to enter and so on. But maybe other people, I don't always want you to know exactly where I am or where I'm going or what I'm about to buy, or So how do you guys balance that part?
So for starters, our entire business is app-based, and so because they're mobile applications, I'm not going to bombard a consumer when they couldn't care less about it. It's going to only be on an app that a consumer has downloaded onto their phone and has given permissions to use things like location and other things for a better user experience. And so you're already over that hurdle. But I would say that even if, forget the Verve business for a second, but even in general for mobile devices or for the web, oftentimes when the creative on the ad is so relevant, regardless of what the format is, you're going to be compelled to respond to it in hopefully a positive way. And so I'm not a millennial by any stretch, and
that's okay.
And it's interesting because we grew up watching television commercials and people invested in this extraordinary creative to the point that some people like creative, but television commercials more than the television shows and themselves. And so I feel like there's a great big switch now in making sure that you've got a creative experience that's going to be relevant to the right audience that you're trying to reach. And so it feels less intrusive and it feels more like either a conversation or a beautiful storytelling experience.
That's interesting. I mean, I hadn't really thought about touching on creative necessarily with you, but I think that is interesting because it plays such an important role.
Yeah,
and I've
absolutely.
spoken to creatives sitting here who are talking about got to be emotional response, got to be this, got to be that, connect to the brand values and so on. So, what are your thoughts, or what have you seen in terms of creatives where you're like, that really gets it right, or that really works and gels with what we're trying to do too, because I'm sure it all complements each other.
Sure, and it's a couple things. One is we work with one of our big partners, and they happen to be a dentist. It happens to have a product that's for oral care. And for that creative, when you're trying to target professionals who either work in and around a dentist's office and happen to have an affinity for a brand or not another brand, there's a degree of specificity of who you're trying to reach. That creative has to be really sharp. It has to be sophisticated. It has to be very smart because you're dealing with a professional audience. And when that works, you're talking about 20-30% upticks in results. And so that's really showing you a great creative message. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, for all of our fashion partners, it has to be visually appealing. It has to be something that...
It has to be sexy.
It has to be sexy. And, well, you could say sexy. I had to say visually appealing.
Oh, visually appealing. That's okay. I mean, I see H&M billboards. If it's not sexy, nobody's going to buy it.
But that's all part of the creative. And the context matters, too. So if I'm on a fashion site, I want to see something incredibly compelling and something very forward
Beyonce
from a fashion.
in a bikini. Yeah.
It's all about Beyonce.
In a bikini. All right, well, let's step away from sexy and from retail. And, you and I were talking also about the next frontier in this world, which I thought was so interesting, and how this retail advertising on mobile is then segueing into or leading to political advertising, which I thought was super interesting.
Yeah, so first of all, billions of dollars are going to get spent over the next year and a half until our elections in November 2016. We're only getting started, I know.
Yeah.
But think about it. So ultimately, to conduct commerce, you want to see a coupon or a message, and you go into a store and you make a purchase. This is the exact same thought process. One would argue you probably have a lot more to gain or a lot more to lose. And the ability to...
You mean in the cute shoes from H&M?
Yeah. And in this scenario, there are some inherent pieces of data that might be valuable for a candidate to know. So, for example, if you're affiliated with one particular party or another, where your home is. And not everybody can do really great household association. It's one of the things that our business does very well. So to be able to see that your home is located in a district that's up for grabs, for example, well, wouldn't it be great for politicians to be able to create a relationship with me through my mobile device, and then let me know, for example, I'm 5 miles away from the nearing polling place. And then on election day, as I'm getting closer and closer, and you can do that with accelerometers, and you can do that through geotargeting, to know that I'm moving toward a polling place.
She's on her way.
Quick, we gotta get her now. Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing like retail.
It's crazy. It's fascinating.
It's a relationship with me with my device, and also compelling creative that's going to sway me to vote for you.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about the fact that the last election was what we called the internet election, or the social election, and this is going to be
absolutely going to be an election based on mobile, and whoever wins on mobile is going to be the winner by far, because you've got newest population of voters.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Like, we'll talk again in 2016, November 5th or 6th, and we'll see if I was right.
Really? So this is, no, that's absolutely fascinating, and I like to hear about kind of where things are going, what the trends are, because it's cool to know what's happening right now, but I think it's fascinating to see where things are going and what directions and what's leading to what. So I think that this is a really big deal. Are there any other kind of trends that you can think of, or things that you're seeing, predictions that you're kind of making for the upcoming period?
So I think so first of all, I do think that in addition to the political arena and how that's going to explode, I actually think you're going to see a lot more brands doing a lot more interesting things on mobile with performance tied to it. And what I mean by that is brand advertising has done really well on television forever because they needed to evoke some kind of an emotion, and then the web got it a little bit even more, where the web took it to another level because you were able to have access to data and have an even deeper relationship and know exactly who you're talking to. Now brands are going to want to say, I've got you as you're about to walk into Walmart, and I want you to buy the Huggies and not the Pampers. And where brands had not traditionally had that kind of a direct response or data-based targeting, I think with mobile devices and because of mobile's penetration, they are going to be doing a lot more of that.
Well, we will see, and I'm telling you right now, we're going to be sitting right here November 2016 when this is all said and done and see where we're at.
That's a deal.
Thank you so much, Nana.
It was lovely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Take care.